The cameras were already rolling when the new soup refused to smile. Madison Square Garden, packed to capacity, 20,000 phones raised like modern torches, waiting for the moment Vought had scripted down to the second. The stage glowed under television lights hot enough to cook skin. A terrorist threat had been implanted 3 blocks away, real enough to scare, controlled enough to stop on cue. The heroes would arrive, the cameras would capture. America would watch a rescue that cost $12 million to stage and would earn back 40 in merchandise sales. Except the man who tore through the loading dock door wasn't wearing a cape. No logo, no grin, no carefully rehearsed one-liner for the press. Just blood on his knuckles and a look in his eyes that made the Vought director whisper into her headset, "Do not let him speak to the public. You're standing in the control room when it happens, watching 16 monitors flicker between camera angles. You're nobody important. A junior producer whose job is to time the applause breaks and cue the pyrotechnics when Homelander flies in for the save. But Homelander isn't here yet, and the man on screen 9, the one surrounded by Vought security and tactical gear, just put 3 armed guards through a concrete pillar without breaking stride. No laser eyes, no super speed blur, just raw, impossibly efficient violence that looks more like a predator dismantling prey than a hero stopping bad guys. The crowd hasn't noticed yet. They're still chanting for the rescue, still believing the theater. You watch him step into the light, and the cheering stutters like a scratched record. He's short, stocky, looks like he walked out of a bar fight in 1975 and never bothered to change clothes. His jacket is shredded. Dried blood, not his cakes his forearms, but it's his hands that make your stomach drop. Between his knuckles, where no human anatomy should allow it, 3 gleaming metal claws extend from each fist like surgical nightmares made solid. Adamantium, though you don't know that word yet. You just know they catch the studio lights and look sharp enough to split molecules. He doesn't pose, doesn't smile, doesn't even acknowledge the cameras. He walks toward the hostages, paid actors in Vaught's employ, and one of them breaks character, stumbling backward in genuine fear. The man with the claws doesn't chase, he just watches, breathing steady, while 20,000 people slowly realize this isn't part of the show. The director's voice cracks through your headset. Cut to commercial. Cut to commercial. Now. But the streaming feeds are live. Social media is already exploding. Someone in the crowd shouts, "Who the hell is that?" And the question ripples through Madison Square Garden like a virus. You see the Vought hero team arrive. The deep A-Train, Queen Maeve in her polished armor, all smiles and choreographed confidence. A-Train speeds forward first, because he always does, because his contract mandates first contact in any televised event. The man with the claws doesn't even turn. A-Train closes the distance in a blink, arm extended for a takedown that's been practiced 50 times in the Vought training center. The clawed man moves. Not fast, not flashy, just a single economical shift of weight, and suddenly A-Train is airborne, crashing through the VIP section, seating in a shower of plastic and screening fans. The crowd goes silent, not the rehearsed silence before a big reveal, real silence, the kind that happens when 20,000 brains simultaneously realize the script just burned. Queen Maeve's hand drops to her sword. The Deep looks at the director's booth, waiting for instructions that aren't coming. The man with the claws retracts his weapons with a sound like scissors closing, and for one frozen second, you think maybe this is salvageable. Maybe Vaught's spin team can turn this into a surprise guest hero narrative. Maybe the world won't ask why this man has no logo, no handler, no billion-dollar smile. Then he speaks. His voice is gravel and whiskey, low enough that the lapel mics barely catch it, but the front row cameras pick up his lips. You people selling heroism like it's a fucking energy drink. You feel it in your gut before your brain catches up. This isn't a publicity stunt gone sideways. This isn't a rival corporation's plant. This is something Vought has never faced before. A variable they didn't create, can't predict, and absolutely cannot afford to let walk out of this building with a microphone. The director's voice comes through again. Calm now, easily professional. Security protocol Omega. Subdue and extract. No cameras in the holding area. Spin team. Prepare statement. Unregistered soup. Possible mental break. Vought heroes contained the situation with 0 civilian casualties. You watch 3 more security teams move in, armed with suppression tech designed to drop Compound V subjects in seconds, tranquilizer rounds, sonic disruptors, electromagnetic nets, the kind of equipment that shouldn't exist if Vaught's public message, "Heroes are volunteers, not prisoners," were true. The man with the claws stands perfectly still as they close in, not tense, not afraid, just waiting, like he's done this 1,000 times, like he knows exactly how much pain he can survive. The first suppression round hits him in the chest, enough tranquilizer to drop a rhino. He blinks once, slow, almost bored. The second round hits his shoulder. He rolls his neck like he's working out a kink. You see it in his eyes before it happens. The decision, not rage, not panic, just cold, brutal math. He moves. The claws come out. And for exactly 7 seconds, Madison Square Garden becomes a case study in what happens when an unkillable weapon meets corporate security theater. Not graphic, not torture. Just utterly horrifyingly efficient dismantling. When it stops, 16 guards are unconscious or writhing. The suppression equipment is shredded, and the man with the claws is bleeding from 11 different holes that are already closing. The cameras caught everything, every single frame. You see it on monitor 4. The moment a teenager in the front row filmed the man's chest, wound sealing itself, skin knitting together like time-lapse footage of a closing flower. Healing, impossible, unreplicable healing. You see it on monitor 7. The look on Queen Maeve's face when she realizes her sword won't matter against something that doesn't stay hurt. You see it on monitor 12. The exact second, Homelander lands at the back entrance, sees the situation, and for once in his spotless career, hesitates. The man with the claws looks directly at the main camera, directly at you, and in that moment, with blood on his claws and bullet holes still smoking in his jacket, he becomes the most dangerous thing in Vaught's perfectly controlled universe. A hero they can't brand, can't buy, can't kill. The director's whisper comes through one final time, and you'll remember it forever. Find out everything, and then make sure he never existed. The holding cell was designed for gods, reinforced steel walls 12 inches thick, embedded with power dampeners that could shut down electrical manipulation, telepathy, energy projection, every known Compound V variant, cataloged in Vaught's private database. The restraints were rated for 50 tons of pressure. Wichertine. The sedation system pumped enough tranquilizer to keep translucent unconscious for a week. But the man sitting in the center of that cell, wrists locked in tungsten cuffs, wasn't built by Compound V. He was built by something older, something angrier. And 3 hours after Madison Square Garden went dark, he was still awake, still breathing, and still healing from the 17 bullets Vought security had pumped into him during extraction. His name, though Vought didn't know it yet, was Logan. Some called him Wolverine. Most just called him a problem that wouldn't die. Dr. Samantha Vega stands outside the observation window, tablet in hand, watching the biometric readings scroll past in real time. She's Vaught's head of suit biology, the woman who's dissected the genetic code of every hero on the company roster, who can predict power mutations down to the cellular level. But the data streaming from the man in the cell makes no sense. His heart rate is steady, respiration normal, brain activity calm, almost meditative. Most subjects in this room are screaming by hour 2, begging by hour 3, broken by hour 4. This one just sits, watching, waiting. The bullet wounds in his chest have closed completely. The tranquilizer that should have his neurons firing blanks is being metabolized faster than her instruments can measure. She pulls up the blood sample analysis from the extraction team and feels her stomach tighten. Unknown genetic markers, protein structures that don't exist in Compound V subjects. A healing factor so aggressive, it's attacking the sedatives like foreign invaders. She leans into the intercom. He's not one of ours. Behind her, Ashley Barrett, Vaught's senior PR director, is pacing like a caged animal. Phone pressed to her ear, red hair pulled so tight it looks painful. I don't care if the video has 40 million views. Scrub it, buy the platforms, threaten the uploaders. I want every frame of that clusterfuck erased by morning. She listens, her expression collapses. What do you mean it's on foreign servers? What do you mean the metadata is encrypted? She hangs up, turns to Dr. Vega. Her voice is a razor wrapped in velvet. Tell me you can explain him. Tell me he's a failed experiment from Red River. Tell me he's a Russian asset pumped full of black market V. Tell me anything that fits a narrative I can spin. Dr. Vega doesn't look away from the monitor. I can't. His genetic structure predates Compound V. If I didn't know better, I'd say he's been this way for decades, maybe longer. The silence in the observation room is broken by the sound of metal groaning. All three women, Dr. Vega, Ashley, and the security supervisor, snap their attention back to the holding cell. Logan hasn't moved, hasn't stood, hasn't even shifted his weight. But the tungsten cuffs around his wrists are bending, not from external force, from internal pressure, from a slow, inevitable expansion of adamantine claws pressing outward against restraints that were never designed to hold something unbreakable. The security supervisor's hand drops to her sidearm. Dr. Vega leans closer to the glass. Ashley's voice climbs an octave. Is he escaping? Can he escape? The cuffs snap, both of them, simultaneously. Logan stands rolling his shoulders,
and the claws retract with that same scissor sound.
He looks directly at the observation window, through it, at them. His voice is low, casual, like he's ordering a beer. Are you gonna keep playing scientist, or we gonna talk? Ashley's phone buzzes. She glances at the screen, and her face goes pale. Homelander's on his way down. As Dr. Vega feels the temperature in the room drop. Everyone in Vought knows what that means. Homelander doesn't visit holding cells to chat. He visits them to remind prisoners and staff who sits at the top of the food chain. He'll smile, he'll joke, and then he'll do something that makes it clear. Mercy is a performance, and the performance ends when he gets bored. The security supervisor backs toward the door. Ashley's fingers are white-knuckled around her phone. Dr. Vega stays at the window, watching Logan, watching the way he doesn't react to the announcement, like he's heard worse threats, survived worse monsters. The intercom crackles. Logan's voice again. Let me guess. You're sending in the blue Boy Scout with the God complex. He sits back down, crosses his arms. Bring him. I've dealt with his type before. Homelander arrives in his usual entrance style. Door slamming open, cape billowing, smile so bright it could sell toothpaste. He's flanked by 2 guards who know better than to speak, who keep their eyes down like servants in a cathedral. He stops at the observation window, hands on hips, assessing Logan the way a child assesses an insect, before deciding whether to crush it or pull its wings off. So, you're the guy who made A-Train look like a little bitch on live TV. His voice is cheerful, too cheerful, the kind of cheer that precedes violence. Gotta say, I'm impressed. Not many people can tank suppression rounds and still throw a punch. Not many people make my team look incompetent in front of 20,000 witnesses. He leans closer to the glass. His eyes start to glow, faint red at the edges. But here's the thing, buddy. This is my house, my rules, and you just shit all over my carpet. Dr. Vega expects Logan to react, to stand, to threaten, to show the same feral aggression he displayed at Madison Square Garden. Instead, he just looks at Homelander with an expression she can't quite read. Not fear, not defiance. Something closer to pity. Kid, Logan says, and the word lands like a slap. You got no idea how many guys like you I've buried. Stronger, faster, meaner. All of them thought they were gods. He stands slowly, walks to the glass, and taps it with one knuckle. The sound echoes. Difference is they believed it. You're just wearing the costume. Homelander's smile doesn't move, doesn't flicker, but his eyes, those terrifying blue eyes that have stared down senators and warlords, narrow just a fraction. Dr. Vega sees it, the micro-expression, the crack in the mask. Homelander isn't used to someone who doesn't flinch. The observation room door opens again. This time it's Madeline Stillwell, or rather it would have been, but she's gone, so it's Stan Edgar instead. Vort's CEO, the man who built the company into $100 billion empire by understanding one simple truth. Power isn't about strength, it's about control. He's wearing a suit that costs more than most people's cars. His expression is neutral, pleasant, the face of a man who's negotiated arms deals and buried scandals before breakfast. He glances at the monitors, at Logan, at the shattered restraints, at Homelander still posturing at the glass. Homelander, Stan says quietly, you're needed upstairs. Press conference in 20. The story is rogue soup, mental breakdown. 7 responded with appropriate force, 0 casualties. Smile for the cameras. Homelander's jaw tightens. For a moment, Dr. Vega thinks he might refuse, might laser through the glass just to prove a point. Then he turns, cape swirling, and walks out without another word. Stan Edgar watches him go, then looks at Logan. Now, let's talk about what you really are. Stan Edgar doesn't enter the holding cell. He doesn't need to. Power is about distance. The further you stand from the violence, the more control you project. Instead, he settles into the observation chair, crosses one leg over the other, and gestures for Dr. Vega to pull up Logan's biological scans on the main display. The data flickers across the screen in columns of genetic markers, protein chains, cellular regeneration rates that spike off the chart. Stan studies it the way an art collector studies a forgery, not with anger, but with professional curiosity. Fascinating, he says, almost to himself. No compound valve, no artificial enhancement we can trace. which means you're either a very expensive hoax, or you're something we've never encountered. He leans forward slightly. Given that you survived 17 bullets and broke tungsten restraints, I'm leaning toward the latter. Logan doesn't respond, just watches through the glass with eyes that have seen too much to be impressed by expensive suits. Stan taps the armrest twice, a gesture. Within seconds, a junior analyst rushes in with a sealed file, hands it over, and exits before anyone can acknowledge his existence. Stan opens it. Inside are printed stills from the Madison Square Garden footage, enhanced frame-by-frame breakdowns of Logan's healing process, entry wound, tissue damage, cellular reconstruction, all of it happening in under 30 seconds. Stan holds up one image. Logan's chest, bullet hole closing like a zipper pulled shut by invisible hands. Dr. Vega tells me this is biologically impossible, that the metabolic energy required would kill a normal human in minutes. But you're not burning out. You're not showing fatigue. Which raises a question. He sets the photo down. How long have you been this way? Logan's jaw tightens. First visible reaction. Long enough to know when someone's trying to put me in a catalog. You're watching this from the hallway outside. You, the junior producer from Chapter 1, who somehow got reassigned to incident documentation after the Madison Square Garden disaster. Your official job is to compile footage for internal review. Your actual job is to be invisible while the grown-ups decide how to bury a problem. You've seen this play out before. Vought doesn't kill people who become liabilities. Not directly, not messily. They reconstruct reality around them. Legal teams, media blackouts, hush money that turns witnesses into ghosts. But this feels different. You watch Stan Edgar through the observation window, and you realize he's not trying to bury Logan. He's trying to understand him, to file him, to turn him into data that fits a spreadsheet. And somehow that's more terrifying than Homelander's threats. Stan presses a button. The intercom crackles. I'm going to make you an offer, mister. He pauses. Do you have a name you'd like to share? Logan stays silent. Stan nods, as if he expected this. Very well. I'll call you what the preliminary reports do. Subject X. Here's the situation. Subject X. You've caused a public relations nightmare. 43 million views across social platforms. 6 senators demanding investigations. 14 separate lawsuits from Madison Square Garden attendees claiming trauma. The cleanup cost alone will exceed $60 million. He says all of this without emotion, like he's reading stock prices. But I'm a businessman, and I see an opportunity. He leans back. Work for us. Join the 7. Or better, join a Black Ops division we're developing. We give you legitimacy, a salary, legal immunity. You give us your cooperation, and we all pretend tonight never happened. Logan's laugh is short, bitter, like gravel grinding in a jar. You want to own me. It's not a question. Stan doesn't deny it. I want to employ you. There's a difference. Logan stands, walks to the glass, and for a moment you think he might punch through it, might show the same explosive violence from the arena. Instead, he just taps the surface again, that same deliberate knuckle knock. Let me tell you what happens if I take that deal. Suit. First you study me, run tests while I sleep, try to figure out what makes me tick, so you can bottle it, brand it, sell it. Then when you realize you can't replicate it, you make me disappear. Accident in the field, training gone wrong. Maybe you even make it look heroic. His voice drops. I've seen this play. Different century, same ending. Stan Edgar's expression doesn't change, not even a flicker. but you catch something in his eyes. Recognition. Not of Logan specifically, but of what he represents. A variable that won't optimize. A human being who's been commodified before and survived it, learned from it, became immune to it. Stan closes the file. Then we have a problem. Because if you won't work with us, and we can't contain you, our options narrow significantly. He stands, straightening his cuffs. I want you to understand something. Subject X. Vought International is not a company. It's an infrastructure. We control the narrative around superheroism in 43 countries. We have contracts with the Department of Defense, the FBI, Homeland Security. We don't just sell heroes, we define what heroism means. He walks to the observation window, meets Logan's stare through the glass. You can break our restraints, you can survive our weapons, but can you survive being erased from consensus reality? The lights cut out, all of them, simultaneously. Emergency backups should kick in within 3 seconds. Standard protocol for any power failure in a secure Vought facility. But the darkness holds. 4 seconds. 5. You hear Dr. Vega's sharp intake of breath. Ashley's whispered curse. Stan Edgar's calm voice. Security. Report. Nothing. No response. The intercom is dead. The monitors are black. Even the faint electric hum that underlies every modern building is gone. 7 seconds. 8. Then a new sound breaks the silence. Metal grinding metal. Not the holding cell door. That's reinforced, electronically locked. Impossible to breach manually. It's coming from somewhere else. Somewhere deeper in the facility. You realize with cold certainty, this isn't a power failure. This is a breakout, but not Logan's breakout. Someone else is coming for him. The emergency lights flicker on, bathing everything in red. The holding cell is empty, not broken open empty, just empty, like Logan was never there. The reinforced door is still sealed. The walls are intact, but the man who sat in that chair 30 seconds ago is gone. Dr. Vega rushes to the terminal, frantically pulling up thermal scans. Nothing. No heat signature in the cell. No trace in the ventilation system. Ashley is shouting into her dead phone, demanding
answers from people who can't hear her. Stan Edgar stands perfectly still, and for the first time since you've seen him, he looks uncertain, hard afraid, just recalculating. He turns to the security supervisor. Lock down every floor, every exit, and find out who cut our power. But you're already looking at monitor 6, the one that covers the sub-basement loading dock. And in the grainy red-tinted footage, you see them 3 figures in dark clothing, moving with military precision. One of them is carrying what looks like a sharp baton. Another has a duffel bag. The third is scanning the hallway with equipment you don't recognize. They're not Vought, and they're heading toward the very room where Logan disappeared. 48 hours earlier, in a basement apartment in Brooklyn that smells like stale beer and old vengeance. Billy Butcher is watching the same Madison Square Garden footage for the 16th time. He's frozen the playback on the exact frame where Logan's claws puncture through a Vought security vest like it's tissue paper. Behind him, Hughie Campbell is pacing, running his hands through his hair, doing that thing he does when the world stops making sense and he needs someone to explain the rules again. So we're just going to ignore that this guy has knives in his hands. Actual knives, growing out of his knuckles. Hughie's voice climbs an octave. That's not Compound V. Dr. Vega's report, the one Frenchie hacked, says his genetic code doesn't match any known suit profile. So what is he? Butcher rewinds the footage, plays it again,
watches Logan heal from suppression rounds in real time. A slow smile spreads across his face. He's a crowbar, Hughie, and Vort's locked door just showed us a crack. Frenchie is at the workbench, surrounded by monitors displaying stolen Vort data streams, encrypted medical files, and 3 separate angles of the Madison Square Garden incident. He's muttering in French, half to himself, half to Mother's Milk, who's standing over his shoulder double-checking every connection because that's what does, make sure the chaos has structure. This man, he is not made, Frenchie says, zooming in on Logan's cellular regeneration pattern. He is not engineered like Homelander, not injected like Kimiko. His healing, it is, how do you say, native, like breathing, like he was born this way, and then someone made him more. Crosses his arms, born with claws in his hands. That's some X-Men bullshit. Frenchie shrugs. Perhaps. But X-Men bullshit is still bullshit. Vort did not create. Which means, Butcher interrupts, slamming his hand on the table. Which means he's got no reason to kiss their corporate asses, and that makes him exactly what we need. Kimiko is the only one not watching the screens. She's sitting in the corner, signing rapid fire to Frenchie, her face intense. He translates without looking away from the monitors. She says the man in the video has her eyes, the eyes of someone who was made into a weapon and remembers every second of it. Frenchie pauses, then adds quietly, she says if we try to use him like Butcher uses everyone, he will kill us, and he will be right to do so. The room goes quiet. Hughie stops pacing. MM's jaw tightens. Butcher turns around slowly, that smile still locked on his face, but something colder underneath. I ain't using nobody, love. I'm offering an alliance. Vort's got him locked up in their Tower of Terror right now, running tests, trying to figure out how to weaponize him or bury him. We get him out, we earn his trust, and maybe, just maybe, he helps us burn down the cathedral. Hughie's voice is small, and if he doesn't want our help, Butcher doesn't answer. Because the real answer, the one he won't say in front of Hughie, is that it doesn't matter what Logan wants. What matters is what he is, or variable Vort can't control. A weapon that doesn't answer to corporate handlers, and a story so viral that even Vort's spin machine can't erase it. The fact that 43 million people watched him shred through a train means the narrative is already broken. Vort's brand is built on one foundational lie, that supes are heroes. Logan proved their products, breakable products, and if Butcher can get Logan in front of a camera, in front of Congress, in front of the world, telling the truth about what Vort really is, well, that's not revenge, that's an earthquake. Breaks the silence. So what's the play? We can't exactly waltz into Vort Tower and ask nicely. Butcher's grin widens. No, but we can cut their power, breach their sub-basement, and make it look like a rival corporation trying to steal their new asset. While they're busy chasing ghosts, we grab the Wolverine and disappear. The plan is insane, which is why it almost works. Frenchie routes a power surge through Vort's backup generators, makes it look like an equipment failure, not sabotage. Uses his military contacts to acquire magnetic pulse charges that'll fry the electronic locks without triggering alarms. Butcher recruits a 2-person crew from his old CIA days, ex-operators who owe him favors and don't ask questions. And Hughie, poor, nervous, morally compromised Hughie, is tasked with monitoring police scanners and providing exit routes because he's too valuable to risk inside the building. Kimiko refuses to stay behind. She signs something to Frenchie, sharp and final. He translates. She says the man with claws will not trust men in masks. He will trust someone who understands what it means to be a weapon. Butcher looks at her for a long moment, then nods. Right, you're in. But if this goes sideways, she signs again. Frenchie doesn't translate. He doesn't need to. Everyone in the room knows what it means. I've survived worse than Vought. The infiltration happens during shift change, 3 a.m., when human attention is at its lowest and security protocols rely on automation. They breach through the sub-basement loading dock, the one Vought uses for discreet deliveries that don't show up on public manifests. Frenchie's pulse charges work perfectly. The magnetic locks disengage with soft clicks instead of screaming alarms. They move through hallways that smell like industrial cleaner and hidden sins, past storage rooms full of compound Vought shipments, marked pharmaceutical samples, past file cabinets containing NDAs signed by people who are now mysteriously missing. MM's counting doors under his breath. Third left, second right, straight shot to the holding wing. But when they reach the observation corridor, they find something wrong. The lights are already out, not from their pulse charges. Those hit the western grid. This is the eastern grid. Someone else cut the power. Someone else is already inside. Butcher raises his hand. Everyone freezes. In the red emergency lighting, they see shadows moving at the far end of the hallway. 3 shapes. Professional stance. Military-grade equipment. Not Vought security. Those guys move like mole cops with delusions of competence. These are operators. Real ones. And they're converging on the same holding cell. The boys came to breach. Butcher's mind races through possibilities. CIA Black Ops, corporate espionage from Samaritan, or another rival. Foreign assets trying to acquire a super weapon. It doesn't matter. What matters is that Logan's cell book is opening, and whoever's inside isn't Vought staff. Whispers, "We abort. Too many players." But Kimiko is already moving. She flows down the hallway like water, silent and inevitable, closing the distance to the rival team before Butcher can grab her. The first operative never sees her coming. 1 second he's scanning the holding cell. The next he's on the ground, unconscious, his weapon in Kimiko's hands. The other 2 operatives spin, training kicking in, weapons rising. And that's when the holding cell door explodes outward. Not from an explosion, from force, from Logan, who apparently didn't need rescuing, who spent the last 2 minutes carving through the door's interior mechanism with adamantium precision. He steps into the hallway, claws out, covered in blood that isn't his, and surveys the scene. Vought security converging from the north. 2 mysterious operatives with weapons aimed at Kimiko and the boys standing in the middle, like they wandered into someone else's war. His eyes lock on Butcher, then on Kimiko, then back to Butcher. His voice is exactly as tired as you'd expect from a man who's been having this conversation for a century. "Let me guess, you're the good guys." Butcher's grin is pure shock. "Not even close, mate. But we're the ones who ain't gonna put you in a cage." Logan's claws retract. He nods once. "Then let's get the hell out of here, before the flying fascist shows up." The Vought Tower alarm system has 3 escalation levels. Level 1, standard breach. Local security response. Silent protocols. Level 2, superpowered threat. 7 mobilization. Building-wide lockdown. Level 3 has never been triggered before tonight. It means total compromise. Hostile extraction in progress. Asset value exceeding acceptable loss threshold. And authorization for lethal force without legal review. The sirens don't wail. They pulse in rhythmic bursts designed to induce panic in intruders, while keeping Vought staff calm enough to follow evacuation procedures. But the boys aren't panicking. They're running. MM takes point with Logan, navigating through sub-basement corridors that Frenchie mapped from stolen schematics. Butcher covers the rear, shock baton charged and ready. Kimiko moves like a ghost between them, her eyes tracking every shadow, every corner, every potential ambush point. And somewhere 16 floors above them, Homelander is waking up to the news that his evening was just interrupted by the one thing he hates most. Someone making him look incompetent twice in 48 hours. Logan moves differently than the rest of them. No wasted motion, no hesitation at intersections. It's like he's done this exact extraction 100 times in 100 different facilities. Like prison breaks on muscle. Memory encoded deeper than thought. When they hit the first security checkpoint, reinforced blast door, biometric scanner, pressure-sensitive floor tiles. He doesn't wait for Frenchie's tech solutions. He just drives his claws into the door seam and pulls. Metal screams, hydraulics burst. The door peels open like a can, and alarms that were already screaming get louder. Butcher laughs, breathless and manic. I'm starting to like you, Wolverine. Logan glances back. Don't. They push through into the parking sublevel.
MM's exit vehicle is waiting, a reinforced van painted to look like a Vought maintenance truck, complete with forged placards and magnetic company logos, close enough to fool cameras, close enough to buy them 90 seconds. That's all they need, except the van is surrounded, not by Vought security, by the same rival operatives from the hallway, except now there are 7 of them, spread in tactical formation, weapons trained on the vehicle. Their gear is expensive, military grade but not US military. The lead operative, a woman with a scar bisecting her left eyebrow, speaks with a clipped European accent. Subject X, you're coming with us, non-negotiable. Logan's claws slide out with that signature metallic whisper. You people really need better pickup lines. The woman doesn't smile. We're not Vought. We don't want to own you. We want to study the anomaly that brought you here. You don't belong in this universe, and neither does the energy signature that transported you. If it destabilizes again, Logan interrupts. Not my problem. He starts walking toward her, slow, inevitable. You got 3 seconds to move, then I go through you. The woman's hand twitches toward a device on her belt, some kind of electromagnetic disruptor, Frenchie would later guess, but she never gets to activate it, because Kimiko explodes into motion, closing 15 feet in a heartbeat, disarming the nearest operative with a brutal efficiency that makes even Logan pause. Butcher follows half a second later, shock baton crackling, and suddenly the parking garage is a war zone. Not guns blazing action movie chaos. Real combat is uglier, faster, more desperate. MM takes a round in the shoulder, curses, keeps moving. Frenchie throws a homemade flashbang that buys them 5 seconds of confusion. Logan doesn't fight like a brawler. He fights like a surgeon with a scalpel. Every strike precise, every movement calculated to disable without killing. It's almost merciful. Almost. The rival operatives are good, well-trained, well-equipped, but they're fighting 3 separate forces with 3 different combat philosophies, and coordination collapses under pressure. 2 minutes. That's how long it takes to clear the garage. 2 minutes of controlled violence that leaves 7 operatives unconscious or incapacitated, MM bleeding but mobile, and the boys piling into the van while Logan stands at the rear doors, claws still out, watching the elevator banks for reinforcements. Butcher's behind the wheel, engine roaring, and for one perfect moment it looks like they might actually make it. Then the elevator doors explode. Not open, explode. Metal shrapnel and concrete dust fill the air, and through the smoke steps Homelander. His cape is gone. His smile is gone. His eyes are glowing red, and the temperature in the garage jumps 10 degrees from radiant heat alone. He doesn't speak, doesn't monologue. He just looks at Logan with an expression that transcends rage and lands somewhere in divine offense. How dare you? How dare you exist without permission? How dare you make me chase you? Logan meets his stare, doesn't flinch, doesn't run, just stands there in the van's rear doorway, claws extended, bleeding from a dozen wounds that are already closing. For 5 seconds that feel like 5 hours, the entire garage holds its breath. Even Butcher, who fears nothing, has his foot hovering over the accelerator, uncertain whether to floor it or surrender. Then Logan does something unexpected. He retracts his claws, steps down from the van, walks 3 paces toward Homelander. His voice carries across the parking structure, calm and conversational. "You want to fight? Fine, but let them go first. This is between you and me." Homelander's head tilts, calculating, suspicious. "Why would I do that?" Logan's answer is simple. "Because you want an audience for when you kill me, and they'll make sure the story gets out." Homelander's smile returns, slow, terrible, smart. He raises his hand, waves it dismissively at the van. "Go, run, tell the world what happens to people who embarrass gods." Butcher should drive. Every tactical instinct, every survival lesson from his CIA years, screams at him to punch the accelerator and thank whatever cruel deity just gave them a reprieve. But Huey's voice crackles through the comms, frantic. "Butcher, don't leave him. You said this wasn't about using people. You said..." Butcher cuts him off. "Shut up, Huey." He looks at MM, who's applying pressure to his shoulder wound, face pale but steady. He looks at Frenchie, who's already pulling up traffic cameras to track their exit route. He looks at Kimiko, who's staring at Logan through the rear window, signing something rapid and urgent. Frenchie translates. "She says he's not doing this for us. He's doing this because he's tired of running." Butcher's hands are white-knuckled on the steering wheel. The engine is still running. Homelander is still standing there, waiting, confident. And Logan is rolling his shoulders, preparing for a fight he knows he can't win, but also knows he'll survive. The decision takes 2 seconds. Butcher shifts into reverse, slams the accelerator. The van rockets backward, and before Homelander can react, before his laser vision can track the movement, Butcher spins the wheel, fishtailing the rear end directly at Homelander's position. It's suicide. It's insane. It's the kind of move that gets everyone killed, but it's also the only move Homelander doesn't expect, because no one has ever been stupid enough to try it. The van's reinforced rear bumper catches him mid-chest. Not hard enough to hurt him. Nothing human-made can hurt him, but hard enough to stagger him, to disrupt his laser sight, to give Logan exactly one opening. Logan leaps, claws out, aimed not at Homelander's chest or face, those are invulnerable, but at his eyes, at the one moment when even Homelander blinks. The claws don't penetrate. Of course they don't, but they scratch. 3 thin lines across Homelander's perfect face. Shallow, barely bleeding, but visible. And for the first time in Homelander's entire manufactured life, someone has marked him. Homelander touches his cheek. His fingers come away red. Not much, a few drops, barely enough to stain his glove, but it might as well be a gallon. His face goes through 5 expressions in 2 seconds. Confusion, disbelief, recognition, fury, and something worse than fury, something cold. He looks at Logan, who's already landed in a crouch 10 feet away, claws still extended, breathing hard but steady. Then Homelander looks at his own blood, at the proof that his invulnerability has limits, that perfection can be scratched. His voice, when it comes, is barely above a whisper. "You marked me." Logan doesn't gloat, doesn't taunt, just shifts his weight, ready for what comes next. "Yeah, and I'll do worse if you don't let us walk." The laugh that erupts from Homelander is wrong, broken. The laugh of a child whose favorite toy just bit him. Then the lasers come. The heat vision doesn't fire in focused beams. It sweeps, wide, wild, uncontrolled. Concrete pillars explode into superheated fragments. The ceiling rains molten rebar. Parked cars detonate in chain reactions of gasoline and battery acid. This isn't precision combat. This is a tantrum given godlike force. Logan dives behind a support column half a second before the lasers would have bisected him. And even from that cover, he feels his skin blistering from radiant heat. The column itself is melting. He's got maybe 3 seconds before it's gone and he's exposed again. Butcher's van is already screaming toward the exit ramp, tires smoking, and through the rear window Logan sees Kimiko watching him, her expression unreadable, not afraid for him, just witnessing, like she's done this herself 1,000 times, survived the unsurvivable, and learned that survival is just another kind of trap. The van disappears up the ramp. Logan's alone now, alone with a god who just learned he bleeds. Homelander stops firing, not because he's done, but because he's recalculating. His face is already healing. Compound Vi's regenerative properties sealing those 3 scratches within seconds, but the psychological wound is deeper. He floats down to ground level, boots touching concrete with theatrical gentleness, and walks toward Logan's cover. Each step is measured, controlled. The tantrum is over. Now comes something worse. Focus. You know what the funny thing is? Homelander's voice is conversational again, almost friendly. "I've killed things stronger than you, blown through tank armor, shattered titanium alloy,
Thrown a 70-47 off course with my bare hands. He's 10 feet away now. 8, 6. But nobody has ever made me bleed on camera. He stops, smiles. Congratulations, you just made yourself Vorti's #1 priority. Not an asset, not a subject, a problem to be erased. Logan steps out from cover, claws retracted, hands visible. The universal sign of parley or surrender, except his eyes say neither. You done monologuing, kid?
Homelander's smile freezes. There's that word again, kid. Like Logan's talking to a teenager who thinks he's tough because daddy gave him a gun. I'm not your kid. The heat vision charges again. Eyes glowing cherry red. Logan doesn't flinch. No, you're Vorti's kid. Built in a lab, raised in a cage, trained to smile and perform. I've seen a dozen of you. Different powers, same empty core. He takes a step forward. Not aggressive, just tired. You want to kill me? Go ahead. I'll heal. I always do. But that van you just let drive away? They're gonna tell the story. And the story isn't that you won. It's that you needed to win. That you're scared. The next 7 seconds are a blur of violence so intense that the parking garage's security footage, later leaked by Frenchie, becomes the most watched combat video in internet history. Homelander attacks with everything. Punches that crack concrete, laser sweeps that carve through steel, throws that send Logan cratering through walls. And Logan doesn't try to win. He can't. Homelander is stronger, faster, invulnerable to everything Logan has. But Logan does something more important than winning. He doesn't break. Every time Homelander puts him down, he gets back up. Broken ribs healing in real time, punctured lung re-inflating, shattered jaw reconstructing itself with wet grinding sounds. He takes the beating, absorbs it, survives it, and with every punch Homelander throws, with every laser blast that melts flesh only to watch it regrow, the psychological dynamic shifts. Homelander isn't proving his superiority, he's proving his desperation.
Finally, after what feels like hours but is actually 90 seconds, Homelander stops. He's breathing hard, not from exertion, but from emotion, from the exhausting realization that he can break Logan's body, but not his will. Logan is on his knees, claws buried in the concrete for support, blood pooling around him from a dozen wounds that are already closing. His jacket is destroyed. His face is a mess of healing tissue, but he's still conscious. Still staring up at Homelander with those defiant, ancient eyes. That all you got? Homelander's fist clenches, unclenches. He wants to keep going. Wants to reduce Logan to paste, to atoms, to nothing. But somewhere in his compound V-enhanced brain, a calculation runs. If he keeps fighting, and Logan keeps healing, the story becomes even worse. The hero who couldn't finish the job, the god who punched down and still couldn't break a man. Homelander straightens his suit, smooths his hair. The mask slides back on with practiced ease. When he speaks, his voice is calm, measured, the voice of someone doing an interview. You're right, the van escaped, and they'll tell a story. But stories are my specialty. He gestures at the carnage around them, the melted cars, the collapsed ceiling, the pools of Logan's blood. This is the story of a violent, unstable mutant who attacked Vought Tower, endangered civilians, and was neutralized by Homelander using appropriate force. The scratches on my face. Editing. Deep fake. Conspiracy theory. He crouches down, meeting Logan's eye level. You can't kill me. I can't kill you. But I can make you irrelevant. I can make you fiction. And in this world, fiction dies faster than immortals. Logan spits blood. It sizzles on the superheated concrete. You really believe that? Homelander stands, brushes imaginary dust from his suit. I don't have to believe it. I just have to sell it. He turns, cape materializing from somewhere, probably a costume handler waiting in the wings, and walks toward the elevator. Then pauses, looks back. One more thing. Those people who rescued you, the ones you think are your allies, they're using you.
just like Vought would, just like everyone does, because that's what weapons are for. He smiles, genuine this time, pitying. Welcome to my world, Wolverine. Try not to cut yourself too deep when you figure it out. Then he's gone, ascending through the shattered ceiling in a blur of red and blue, leaving Logan alone in a parking garage that looks like a war zone. For 30 seconds, Logan doesn't move, just kneels there, breathing, healing, thinking. Then he stands. His legs shake but hold. His ribs click back into place with sounds like green wood breaking. He walks toward the exit ramp, following the tire marks Butcher's van left. Behind him, Vought security teams are finally arriving, heavily armed, cautious, finding nothing but wreckage and the fading scent of burning flesh. They'll sweep the scene, collect samples, file reports, spin narratives, but they won't find Logan, because Logan's already gone, moving through New York's underground with the practiced ease of someone who's been hunted across continents and learned that the best hiding place is plain sight. And somewhere in Brooklyn, in a safe house that smells like stale beer and old vengeance, Billy Butcher is watching the leaked security footage for the first time, watching Logan take a beating that would kill anyone else and come back for more, watching Homelander lose control, watching the moment when America's greatest hero was forced to walk away from a fight. Butcher rewinds to the part where Logan's claws scratch Homelander's face, pauses, zooms in, and smiles like a man who just found the loaded gun he's been searching for his entire life. 72 hours after the Vought Tower incident, the footage has been downloaded 400 million times. Every social media platform, every news network, every conspiracy forum and meme page and political commentary channel. Vaught's PR team works around the clock trying to scrub it, filing copyright claims, threatening litigation, deploying bot armies to flood comment sections with disinformation. But the internet has already made its decision. This is real. The footage is too raw, too visceral, too impossible to fake. You can see Homelander's face in crystal clear 4K as those claws drag across his cheek. You can see the blood, you can see the shock, and most importantly, you can see him walk away. Not victorious, not triumphant, just walking away from a fight he couldn't finish. The hashtag #HashGod bleeds trends worldwide for 6 consecutive days. Vought stock drops 9% in the first 48 hours. You're watching this unfold from your apartment in Queens. You, the junior producer who documented everything from the control room. You've been placed on administrative leave, which is corporate speak for stay home and keep your mouth shut, while we decide if you're a liability. Your phone has been ringing non-stop. Journalists, lawyers, people claiming to be FBI. You don't answer. You just watch the news coverage spiral out of control. CNN has a panel debating whether Homelander's invulnerability was ever real or just Vought marketing. Fox News is calling Logan a terrorist while simultaneously praising his traditional masculine values. MSNBC is demanding congressional hearings, and on every channel, every stream, every podcast, the same question keeps surfacing. Who is he? Where did he come from? And why does Vought want him disappeared so badly? The government's response is predictably fractured. The Department of Defense wants Logan weaponized. The CIA wants him interrogated. Homeland Security wants him classified as a domestic threat. But they're all operating from the same flawed assumption that Logan is a new variable, a recent development, something that can be contained with enough paperwork and black site facilities.
None of them understand that Logan's been running from governments since before most of their agencies existed, that he's survived everything from World War II to Weapon X to civil wars on 3 continents, that containment isn't a threat to him. It's just another Tuesday. Director of National Intelligence Sarah Ramirez holds a classified briefing where she presents genetic analysis from the blood samples Vought collected. Her conclusion, delivered to a room full of generals and intelligence chiefs, is 3 words long. He's not human. The silence that follows lasts exactly 12 seconds before everyone starts talking at once. Meanwhile, in Brooklyn, the boys are having a very different conversation. Huey is pacing again, laptop open, showing them the news coverage. This is insane. We broke someone out of Vought Tower, and now he's the most famous person on Earth. Every 3-letter agency is looking for him. Vought has $1 billion bounty on his head, and we have no idea where he is. is cleaning his shoulder wound, stitched, bandaged, healing slowly the normal human way. He didn't want to be found, made that clear when he split off at the subway station. Frenchie nods, scrolling through encrypted communications he's intercepted from Vaught's internal network. They are terrified of him, not because he is strong, Homelander is stronger, but because he cannot be controlled, cannot be predicted, cannot be, how do you say, optimized? Butcher leans back in his chair, boots on the table, that permanent smirk playing at his lips. He's perfect. Kimiko signs something sharp, urgent. Frenchie translates. She says we should leave him alone, that he didn't ask for our help, and doesn't want it, that dragging him into our war makes us exactly like The room goes quiet. Butcher's smirk fades. He's already in the war. Love. Moment those claws came out on live television, he became a soldier whether he likes it or not. Huey's voice is small. Butcher, what if Homelander was right? What if we are just using him? The question hangs in the air like smoke. Stops cleaning his wound. Frenchie stops scrolling. Even Butcher pauses before answering. When he does, his voice is softer than usual, almost introspective. Course we're using him, just like he's using us. Symbiotic relationship. In it, we give him intel, safe houses, a way to hit back at Vought. He gives us credibility, proof that Soups ain't invincible. The scratch heard round the world. He swings his boots down, leans forward. Difference is, we're honest about it. Before anyone can respond, the safe house door opens, not kicked in, not broken, just opened, like someone picked the lock with professional ease and decided knocking was beneath them. Logan steps inside, still wearing the shredded remains of his escape outfit, dried blood caked on his arms, but otherwise looking surprisingly composed. He surveys the room, takes in Butcher's defensive posture, reaching for a weapon, Frenchie frozen mid-keystroke, Huey practically vibrating with nervous energy, and Kimiko watching him with those knowing eyes. Logan kicks the door shut behind him. We need to talk. Butcher recovers first, that grin sliding back into place. Well, the prodigal weapon returns. Thought you'd be halfway to Canada by now. Logan ignores the jab, walks to the table, and drops something onto its surface. A USB drive. That's everything Vought has on me. Medical files, genetic analysis, video footage from their tests, and something else. Something they're keeping off the books. Frenchie picks up the drive like it might explode. How did you? Logan cuts him off. Doesn't matter. What matters is what's on there. Vought didn't just study me, they tried to replicate me. Project Regeneration started 48 hours after I landed in their tower. He looks at each of them in turn.
and his expression is grim. They extracted bone marrow while I was sedated, enough to run a dozen experiments, and according to their internal memos, one of them worked. The temperature in the room drops. Huey's voice cracks. Worked? What do you mean worked? Logan's claws slide out halfway. Not a threat, just a demonstration, just a reminder of what Vought is trying to manufacture. I mean, they created something, not a clone, not a copy, something worse. A suit with my healing factor, and none of my restraint. He retracts the claws. They're calling it Subject X-23, and they're planning to deploy it in 72 hours. The silence that follows is absolute. Even Butcher, who always has a quip ready, says nothing, because everyone in that room understands what this means. Vought didn't just fail to contain Logan. They weaponized him, took his biology, and turned it into something they can control. Something with a corporate logo and a PR campaign. Something that makes the original. Finally, after what feels like hours but is actually 90 seconds, Homelander stops. He's breathing hard, not from exertion, but from emotion, from the exhausting realization that he can break Logan's body, but not his will. Logan is on his knees, claws buried in the concrete for support, blood pooling around him from a dozen wounds that are already closing. His jacket is destroyed. His face is a mess of healing tissue, but he's still conscious, still staring up at Homelander with those defiant, ancient eyes. That all you got? Homelander's fist clenches, unclenches. He wants to keep going, wants to reduce Logan to paste, to atoms, to nothing. But somewhere in his compound V-enhanced brain, a calculation runs. If he keeps fighting, and Logan keeps healing, the story becomes even worse. The hero who couldn't finish the job, the god who punched down and still couldn't break a man. Homelander straightens his suit, smooths his hair. The mask slides back on with practiced ease. When he speaks, his voice is calm, measured, the voice of someone doing an interview. You're right, the van escaped, and they'll tell a story. But stories are my specialty. He gestures at the carnage around them, the melted cars, the collapsed ceiling, the pools of Logan's blood. This is the story of a violent, unstable mutant who attacked Ford Tower, endangered civilians, and was neutralized by Homelander using appropriate force. The scratches on my face, editing, deepfake, conspiracy theory. He crouches down, meeting Logan's eye level. You can't kill me, I can't kill you, but I can make you irrelevant. I can make you fiction, and in this world, fiction dies faster than immortals. Logan spits blood, it sizzles on the superheated concrete. You really believe that? Homelander stands, brushes imaginary dust from his suit. I don't have to believe it, I just have to sell it. He turns, cape materializing from somewhere, probably a costume handler waiting in the wings, and walks toward the elevator, then pauses, looks back. One more thing. Those people who rescued you, the ones you think are your allies, they're using you, just like Vought would, just like everyone does, because that's what weapons are for. He smiles, genuine this time, pitying. Welcome to my world, Wolverine. Try not to cut yourself too deep when you figure it out. Then he's gone, ascending through the shattered ceiling in a blur of red and blue, leaving Logan alone in a parking garage that looks like a war zone. For 30 seconds, Logan doesn't move, just kneels there, breathing, healing, thinking. Then he stuns. His legs shake but hold. His ribs click back into place, with sounds like green wood breaking. He walks toward the exit ramp, following the tire marks. Butcher's van left. Behind him, Vought security teams are finally arriving, heavily armed, cautious, finding nothing but wreckage.
and the fading scent of burning flesh. They'll sweep the scene, collect samples, file reports, spin narratives, but they won't find Logan, because Logan's already gone, moving through New York's underground with the practiced ease of someone who's been hunted across continents and learned that the best hiding place is plain sight. And somewhere in Brooklyn, in a safe house that smells like stale beer and old vengeance, Billy Butcher is watching the leaked security footage for the first time, watching Logan take a beating that would kill anyone else and come back for more, watching Homelander lose control, watching the moment when America's greatest hero was forced to walk away from the fight. Butcher rewinds to the part where Logan's claws scratch Homelander's face.
Pauses, zooms in, and smiles like a man who just found the loaded gun he's been searching for his entire life. 72 hours after the Vought Tower incident, the footage has been downloaded 400 million times. Every social media platform, every news network, every conspiracy forum and meme page and political commentary channel. Vaught's PR team works around the clock, trying to scrub it, filing copyright claims, threatening litigation, deploying bot armies to flood comment sections with disinformation. But the internet has already made its decision. This is real. The footage is too raw, too visceral, too impossible to fake. You can see Homelander's face in crystal clear 4K as those claws drag across his cheek. You can see the blood. You can see the shock. And most importantly, you can see him walk away. Not victorious, not triumphant, just walking away from a fight he couldn't finish. The #GodBleeds trends worldwide for 6 consecutive days. Vought stock drops 9% in the first 48 hours. You're watching this unfold from your apartment in Queens. You, the junior producer who documented everything from the control room. You've been placed on administrative leave, which is corporate speak for stay home and keep your mouth shut, while we decide if you're a liability. Your phone has been ringing non-stop. Journalists, lawyers, people claiming to be FBI.
You don't answer. You just watch the news coverage spiral out of control.
CNN has a panel debating whether Homelander's invulnerability was ever real or just Vought marketing. Fox News is calling Logan a terrorist while simultaneously praising his traditional masculine values. MSNBC is demanding congressional hearings, and on every channel, every stream, every podcast, the same question keeps surfacing. Who is he? Where did he come from? And why does Vought want him disappeared so badly? The government's response is predictably fractured. The Department of Defense wants Logan weaponized. The CIA wants him interrogated. Homeland Security wants him classified as a domestic threat. But they're all operating from the same flawed assumption that Logan is a new variable, a recent development, something that can be contained with enough paperwork and black site facilities. None of them understand that Logan's been running from government since before most of their agencies existed, that he's survived everything from World War II to Weapon X to civil wars on 3 continents. That containment isn't a threat to him. It's just another Tuesday. Director of National Intelligence Sarah Ramirez holds a classified briefing where she presents genetic analysis from the blood samples Vought collected. Her conclusion, delivered to a room full of generals and intelligence chiefs, is 3 words long. He's not human. The silence that follows lasts exactly 12 seconds before everyone starts talking at once. Meanwhile, in Brooklyn, the boys are having a very different conversation. Hughie is pacing again, laptop open, showing them the news coverage. This is insane. We broke someone out of Vought Tower, and now he's the most famous person on Earth. Every 3-letter agency is looking for him. Vought has $1 billion bounty on his head, and we have no idea where he is. MM is cleaning his shoulder wound, stitched, bandaged, healing slowly the normal human way. He didn't want to be found. Made that clear when he split off at the subway station. Frenchie nods, scrolling through encrypted communications he's intercepted from Vord's internal network. They are terrified of him. Not because he is strong. Homelander is stronger. But because he cannot be controlled. Cannot be predicted. Cannot be, how do you say, optimized. Butcher leans back in his chair, boots on the table, that permanent smirk playing at his lips. He's perfect. Kimiko signs something sharp, urgent. Frenchie translates. She says we should leave him alone, that he didn't ask for our help, and doesn't want it. That dragging him into our war makes us exactly like Vord. The room goes quiet. Butcher's smirk fades. He's already in the war. Love. Moment those claws came out on live television. He became a soldier whether he likes it or not. Hughie's voice is small. Butcher. What if Homelander was right? What if we are just using him? The question hangs in the air like smoke. Stops cleaning his wound. Frenchie stops scrolling. Even Butcher pauses before answering. When he does, his voice is softer than usual, almost introspective. Course we're using him, just like he's using us. Symbiotic relationship in it. We give him intel, safe houses, a way to hit back at Vord. He gives us credibility, proof that soups ain't invincible. The scratch heard round the world. He swings his boots down, leans forward. Difference is we're honest about it. Before anyone can respond, the safe house door opens, not kicked in, not broken, just opened, like someone picked the lock with professional ease and decided knocking was beneath them. Logan steps inside, still wearing the shredded remains of his escape outfit, dry blood caked on his arms, but otherwise looking surprisingly composed. He surveys the room, takes in Butcher's defensive posture, reaching for a weapon, Frenchie frozen mid-keystroke, Hughie practically vibrating with nervous energy, and Kimiko watching him with those knowing eyes. Logan kicks the door shut behind him. We need to talk. Butcher recovers first, that grin sliding back into place. Well, the prodigal weapon returns. Thought you'd be halfway to Canada by now. Logan ignores the jab, walks to the table, and drops something onto its surface, a USB drive. That's everything Vord has on me. Medical files, genetic analysis, video footage from their tests, and something else, something they're keeping off the books. Frenchie picks up the drive like it might explode. How did you? Logan cuts him off. Doesn't matter. What matters is what's on there. Vord didn't just study me. They tried to replicate me. Project Regeneration started 48 hours after I landed in their tower. He looks at each of them in turn, and his expression is grim. They extracted bone marrow while I was sedated, enough to run a dozen experiments, and according to their internal memos, one of them worked. The temperature in the room drops. Hughie's voice cracks. Worked? What do you mean worked? Logan's claws slide out halfway. Not a threat, just a demonstration, just a reminder of what Vord is trying to manufacture. I mean, they created something, not a clone, not a copy, something worse, a suit with my healing factor, and none of my restraint. He retracts the claws. They're calling it Subject X-23, and they're planning to deploy it in 72 hours. The silence that follows is absolute. Even Butcher, who always has a quip ready, says nothing, because everyone in that room understands what this means. Vord didn't just fail to contain Logan. They weaponized him, took his biology, and turned it into something they can control. Something with a corporate logo and a PR campaign. something that makes the original obsolete. Many is the first to speak, where Logan's jaw tightens, a vault facility in Pennsylvania. Black site, not on any official records, but I've got coordinates. He looks at Butcher, and there's a challenge in that look. A test. You said you wanted to burn down the cathedral. Here's your match. You in? Butcher doesn't hesitate, doesn't calculate odds or consider consequences. He just stands, extends his hand, and says the only thing that matters. Mate, I was born for this. The facility doesn't appear on satellite imagery, not because it's hidden. You can't hide a 300-acre compound from modern surveillance, but because the imagery has been scrubbed, purchased, classified, or simply erased by people with enough clearance to make reality negotiable. It sits in rural Pennsylvania, disguised as a pharmaceutical research campus, complete with fake signage, maintenance crews that actually maintain things, and security that looks civilian until you notice the military-grade weapons hidden under windbreakers. Frenchie hacked the property records. The land is owned by a shell corporation, which is owned by another shell corporation, which eventually traces back to a vault subsidiary that officially disbanded in 2003. Unofficially, it's where they do the work that can't make headlines, where Compound V experiments that fail spectacularly get buried, sometimes literally. And now, according to Logan's stolen intel, it's where Subject X-23 is being held in a reinforced containment unit, designed specifically to survive someone with adamantium claws and a healing factor. The approach is silent. 2 vehicles, Butcher driving the lead van with Logan, MM and Kimiko, while Huey and Frenchie follow in a surveillance truck packed with tech that would make the NSA jealous. It's 3 a.m. The facility runs on skeleton crew during these hours, not because they're understaffed, but because night shifts are when they conduct the procedures that require fewer witnesses. Logan sits in the passenger seat, staring at the compound through binoculars, his expression unreadable. Security's tight. Perimeter patrols every 8 minutes. Infrared cameras on the eastern fence. Guard towers at each corner, probably equipped with suppression tech. He lowers the binoculars. They're expecting someone to try this. MM checks his rifle, loaded with tranquilizer rounds, because killing guards isn't the mission. Then we give them what they're expecting. Frontal distraction. While they focus on us, Logan ghosts in through the maintenance tunnels. But Logan shakes his head. No, they know I'm coming. Whole point of building this place was to draw me out. He looks at Butcher. They didn't weaponize my DNA because they wanted another me. They did it because they wanted bait. Butcher's grin is wolfish. So it's a trap. Good. Traps only work if the prey doesn't know they're prey. He pulls out a tablet showing the facility's layout. Not from official blueprints, which don't exist, but from utility company records that Frenchie cross-referenced with geological surveys. There's a ventilation shaft that runs from the western edge straight into the lower levels. Too small for their guards. Not too small for her. He nods at Kimiko, who's been silent this whole time, staring at the facility like she's seeing ghosts. She signs something. Frenchie translates from the surveillance truck via comms. She says if there's a child in there, if they made something like her, she's going in first. The infiltration begins at 3:47 a.m. Kimiko enters through the ventilation shaft while Butcher and MM create a distraction at the main gate. Nothing explosive, just a maintenance truck with falsified credentials and a story about emergency repairs to the water main. The guards are suspicious but protocol-bound, which gives Kimiko 90 seconds to navigate 60 feet of ductwork and emerge in a hallway that smells like antiseptic and fear. Logan comes in through the loading dock, exploiting a shift-change gap that shouldn't exist but does because even black sites have human schedules and human error. He moves like a ghost through corridors lined with holding cells. Empty ones, thank God. Because whatever experiments happened here have either succeeded, failed, or been relocated. The facility is larger than the intel suggested, deeper, more labyrinthine, like it was designed by someone who understood that the real security isn't walls, it's confusion. They converge on sub-level 3 simultaneously. Kimiko from above, Logan from the west corridor, and what they find stops them both. The containment chamber is massive, 20 feet high, walls lined with the same power dampening tech from Vought Tower, reinforced with something Logan recognizes immediately: adamantium plating, the only substance that can resist adamantium claws, which means Vought knew exactly what they were building. Inside the chamber, suspended in a vertical restraint system that looks more like medieval torture than modern science, is Subject X-23, not a clone, not a man, a girl, 16, maybe 17, with dark hair and feral eyes and hands locked in restraints, designed to suppress but not comfort. Her arms are scarred, not from accidents, but from testing, from forced demonstrations of her abilities, from corporate researchers treating a human being like a product prototype. When she sees Logan through the observation glass, her expression shifts from rage to something worse: recognition. Logan's claws slide out involuntarily, not in threat, in solidarity, in the sick understanding of what she represents, what he was, what Vought tried to replicate, what they'll never stop trying to create, because weapons are more profitable than people. Kimiko is already moving to the control panel, her fingers flying across the touchscreen, bypassing security protocols with techniques learned from too many prisons. The chamber door hisses open, the restraints release, and X-23 drops to the floor, landing in a crouch, claws extending from her hands, 3 on each side, smaller than Logan's but just as sharp. She's shaking, not from weakness, from barely contained violence, from the coiled fury of someone who's been caged and studied and hurt, and is finally free. She looks at Logan, then at Kimiko, then speaks in a voice that's hoarse from disuse. "Who are you?" Logan takes one step forward, slow, non-threatening. "I'm the guy they tried to copy, and we're getting you out of here." X-23's eyes narrow. Why? It's the question of someone who's learned that rescue usually comes with conditions, that freedom has a price, that every hand extended is attached to someone who wants something. Logan doesn't lie to her, doesn't promise safety or peace or a happy ending. He just tells her the truth. Because what they did to you was wrong, and because you're not a weapon, you're a person, and persons get to choose. For 3 seconds, she doesn't move, doesn't trust. Then Kimiko signs something. No translation needed. The meaning is in her eyes. "I was you. I survived. You will too." X-23's claws retract. She nods once, then lets go before they. The alarm cuts her off. Not the slow-building wail of a breach alert, the immediate ear-splitting shriek of a full lockdown. The door to sub-level 3 seals with a hydraulic slam that shakes the walls. Emergency lighting kicks in, red, pulsing, disorienting. Logan spins toward the corridor they entered from and finds it blocked by descending blast doors. Kimiko tries the control panel. Dead, remotely overridden. They're trapped. A speaker crackles to life, and the voice that emerges is calm, professional, and utterly devoid of humanity. Dr. Samantha Vega, speaking from a control room somewhere above them. Mr. Logan, thank you for confirming our hypothesis. We theorized that Subject X-23 would be effective bait. We were correct. Logan snarls at the ceiling. Let the girl go. Your fight's with me. Dr. Vega's laugh is clinical. The girl is the fight. She's what happens when we refine your biology, remove the conscience, amplify the aggression, perfect the weapon. A pause. But we needed to test her in live combat conditions. Against the original. Thank you for volunteering. A section of the far wall grinds open. Not a door, a gate. Behind it, shadows move. Multiple figures. Not one X-23, 5. All girls. All teenagers. All with the same feral eyes and scarred arms. All wearing collars that pulse with electric light. Control mechanisms. Shock therapy on demand. Pavlovian conditioning made wearable. They step into the chamber slowly, their movements synchronized, their claws extending in perfect unison. These aren't rescues. These are products, perfected, branded, ready for deployment, and their first mission is standing right in front of them. Kill the prototype and prove the upgrade. Logan looks at X-23, the original, the one they pulled from restraints. She's staring at the others, with an expression that's part horror, part rage, part grief, because she's looking at herself, at what she could have become if Vought had finished the programming. Kimiko positions herself between Logan and the advancing clones, ready to fight, even though the math is impossible. And somewhere above, in the control room, Dr. Vega is recording everything. Because in Vaught's world, even tragedy is content, even death is data. Even this, 5 weaponized children forced to kill the man whose DNA they share, is just another product demonstration. The first clone attacks without warning. No dramatic build-up, no villain monologue, just pure trained efficiency. She closes 12 feet in a blink, claws aimed at Logan's throat, moving with a speed that suggests Vought didn't just replicate his healing, they enhanced everything else. Logan sidesteps, muscle memory from 100 fights guiding his body faster than thought, and her claws tear through the space where his carotid was a microsecond ago. She doesn't pause, doesn't recalibrate, just spins into a follow-up strike that forces Logan backward into a support pillar. The impact cracks concrete. Another clone is already flanking, coordinating without words, without signals, like they share a hive mind or were trained through repetition so brutal it bypassed conscious thought. Kimiko intercepts her, blocking a claw strike with her forearm. Flesh versus adamantium, which should end with severed bone. But Kimiko's compound V healing kicks in fast enough that she stays functional, barely. X-23, the original, the one they freed, doesn't join the fight. She stands frozen, watching her sisters advance on Logan and Kimiko with choreographed brutality, and you can see the war happening behind her eyes. These are her, genetically identical, shaped by the same pain. But where she retained enough humanity to ask why, they've been conditioned past questions, past hesitation, past mercy. They're what Vought wanted her to be, weapons without conscience. Her hands clench, Claws slide out halfway. She's calculating, not whether to fight, but who. Then one of the clones breaks formation, sees X-23 standing idle, and interprets stillness as malfunction. She pivots mid-attack, abandoning Logan to charge the defective unit. The psychology is obvious. Eliminate the variable that doesn't match programming. X-23's eyes go wide. Not fear, recognition. They've been trained to self-correct, to cannibalize weakness, to become perfect through elimination. The collision is brutal. Two identical fighters, same speed, same strength, same healing factor, but one fights to kill and the other fights to survive. They go down in a tangle of claws and blood, tearing into each other with the kind of violence that only happens when you're fighting yourself, when every move you make is predictable, because it's the same move you'd make. The chamber floor becomes slick with blood that regenerates as fast as it spills. Logan tries to pull them apart and catches a claw through his shoulder for the effort, not from the attacker, from X-23, who's so deep in survival mode, she can't distinguish ally from enemy. He staggers back, letting them fight, and that half-second distraction costs him. Two more clones converge. One goes high, one goes low. Classic pincer maneuver. And Logan takes hits he can't dodge. Ribs punctured, thighs slashed open, healing but not fast enough to prevent the third clone from driving her claws toward his skull. Kimiko saves him, throws herself into the attack trajectory, taking the blow meant for Logan's brain through her own shoulder instead. The force drives her to her knees, but she doesn't scream. She never screams. She just grabs the clone's wrist and holds on with everything she has. The clone tries to pull free. Can't. Kimiko's grip is superhuman, fueled by the same compound V that keeps her alive through injuries that would kill normal humans. But she's outmatched in raw power. The clone's second hand comes up, claws aimed at Kimiko's throat, and for one frozen moment, it looks like this is where the story ends, where the good guys lose because they were outnumbered, outplanned, and fighting an enemy designed specifically to beat them. Then the lights go out, complete darkness, emergency systems dead. Even the electric hum of X-23's shock collars goes silent. Frenchie's voice crackles through Logan's earpiece. Power grid compromised. You have 30 seconds before backup generators engage. Make them count. 30 seconds in total darkness against opponents who've been trained to fight blind. Against Logan, who's fought in worse conditions across 2 centuries. He doesn't need light to know where they are. He can hear their breathing, smell their blood, sense the displacement of air as they move. He drops into pure instinct, the part of his brain that predates language, and becomes exactly what Vought tried to replicate, a perfect killing machine, with one critical difference. He chooses when to stop. The sounds in those 30 seconds are primal. Snarls, impacts, the wet crunch of healing flesh tearing and reforming. When the emergency lights flicker back on, 4 clones are down, not dead. Healing factors make death complicated, but unconscious and bleeding badly enough that they won't be combat effective for minutes. The 5th is locked in Logan's grip, her neck in the crook of his arm, not choking but restraining. She thrashes, spits, tries to headbutt him. He holds firm and speaks directly into her ear, voice low and steady. You're stronger than this. Whatever they programmed into you, you're more than code. The clone doesn't respond with words. She responds with a bite that takes a chunk out of Logan's forearm. He doesn't let go, just bleeds and heals and keeps talking. I know what you're feeling. The rage, the training, The voice in your head that says violence is the only answer. I lived it for decades, and I'm telling you, he tightens his grip, not to hurt but to ground her. You get to choose different. For 5 seconds, nothing changes. The clone keeps fighting, keeps trying to break free, keeps acting exactly like Vought programmed her to act. Then something shifts. The struggle weakens, not surrender. Recognition. She stops biting, stops thrashing, just breathes, ragged and confused, like she's waking from a nightmare into a reality that doesn't make sense. Logan releases her slowly, ready for betrayal, but she just collapses to her knees, staring at her own clawed hands, like she's seeing them for the first time. Blood, Logan's, Kimiko's, her sister's drips from her fingers. She whispers, "What am I?" Before Logan can answer, the observation window shatters, not from inside the chamber, from outside. Butcher and MM breach through with breaching charges and tactical precision, weapons raised, ready to extract their team from whatever hell they walked into. They find a chamber that looks like an abattoir. 5 teenage girls bleeding on the floor. Kimiko supporting her own weight against a wall, shoulder torn open. Logan standing in the center of it all, covered in wounds that are already closing, looking exactly like the weapon Vought wanted to create, and the man he's trying not to be. And X-23, the original, staring at her freed sister like she's looking at a miracle that shouldn't be possible. Butcher takes in the scene, lowers his weapon, looks at Logan. Rescue successful, I take it. Logan's laugh is bitter, exhausted, something like that. Then the building shakes, not an earthquake, something else, something descending from above with enough force to crack the foundation. Doctor, Vega's voice returns through the speakers, but there's panic in it now. Controls slipping. All personnel evacuate immediately. Homelander has arrived. This is not a drill. Homelander is. The transmission cuts, replaced by a voice everyone in that chamber recognizes. Calm, cheerful, absolutely furious underneath. Well, breaking into secured facilities, stealing corporate assets, assaulting Vought personnel. Homelander's voice echoes through the compound, like a god speaking from on high. And here I thought we had an understanding. Wolverine, you run. I let you. You cross the line. A pause, pregnant with threat. I make an example. Logan looks at the girls on the floor, at Kimiko wounded, at X-23, and her freed sister, both terrified and confused and traumatized, at Butcher and MM, armed but utterly outmatched against what's coming. The math is simple, brutal, inevitable. He turns to Butcher. Get them out, all of them. Back exit, maintenance tunnels. Butcher's face hardens. And you. Logan's claws slide out one last time. I'm the distraction. Just like last time. Except this time, he looks up at the ceiling, at the structural damage spreading as Homelander descends. This time I'm not running. Homelander doesn't use doors. He makes doors. The ceiling above sublevel 3 explodes inward in a shower of concrete and rebar, and he descends through the hole like an avenging angel. If angels wore capes and smiled while contemplating murder, he lands in the center of the chamber, boots cracking the floor, and surveys the carnage with an expression that cycles through surprise, disgust, and something almost like satisfaction. Well, this is disappointing. He gestures at the unconscious clones, at the blood-slicked floor, at the shattered observation window. Vought spent $300 million on this facility, another $200 million on Project Regeneration. And you, he points at Logan, who's standing between Homelander and the exit tunnel.
where the boys are evacuating. You walk in here like you own the place and ruin 5 years of research in 30 minutes. His eyes start to glow. I'm genuinely impressed. Right before I vaporize you, Logan doesn't respond with words. He responds with movement, a full sprint, directly at Homelander, claws extended. No strategy beyond closing distance and buying seconds. It's suicide. Everyone knows it's suicide. Homelander's laser vision tracks him, charges, fires, and Logan twists mid-run, sacrificing his left arm to the beam rather than his chest. The limb is severed at the elbow, cauterized instantly, and the pain would drop any normal person into shock. Logan keeps running, uses his remaining clawed hand to drive into Homelander's midsection. Not penetrating, adamantium isn't enough against invulnerable skin, but the impact forces Homelander back 3 inches. 3 inches is enough. Behind them, the last of the boys disappears into the maintenance tunnel, carrying the girls, and the blast door seals with a hydraulic finality. Logan's sacrifice bought them 40 seconds. 40 seconds for 6 lives to escape, while 1 life stays behind to face a god who's run out of patience. Homelander grabs Logan by the throat, lifts him off the ground, and slams him into the adamantium-reinforced wall hard enough to crack the metal. You know what your problem is. Homelander's voice is conversational, almost friendly, like they're discussing sports over beer. You think sacrifice means something, that dying for others makes you noble. He slams Logan again. The wall craters, but here's the truth. Sacrifice is just losing with extra steps, and in this world, losers disappear. He brings Logan's face close to his own, and the heat from his eyes, not firing, just radiating, is enough to blister skin. So let me ask you something, Wolverine. When you heal from this, when you wake up in whatever hole you crawl into, are you going to remember that you lost? Or are you going to tell yourself you won because you saved a few damaged products? Logan's answer comes through blood-filled lungs. They're not products. They're people. And yeah, I'm going to remember I saved them. Homelander's grip tightens. Logan's trachea collapses, begins regenerating, collapses again in a cycle of damage and repair that should kill through sheer pain alone. But Logan's been here before, been broken before, been crushed and burned and drowned and shot and stabbed and survived, all of it through one simple principle. Outlast. You can't beat gods, but you can make them tired, make them frustrated, make them waste energy on someone who refuses to give them the satisfaction of breaking. Homelander's smile fades. Stop. Healing. Laser vision fires point blank into Logan's chest. Not a killing blow. Those are too quick, but a slow burn
cooks tissue faster than it can regenerate. The smell of burning flesh fills the chamber. Logan's scream is involuntary, animal, the sound of a nervous system overwhelmed by input it can't process. It lasts 7 seconds. When Homelander stops, Logan is still conscious, still breathing, still healing, still refusing to break. Miles away, in the back of a speeding van that smells like blood and fear and salvation, Butcher is watching a tablet screen, showing thermal imaging from the facility. Frenchie hacked the compound's security feed before they evacuated, and now they're witnessing Logan's last stand in real time. EMM is driving, knuckles white on the steering wheel, jaw clenched so tight it looks like his teeth might crack. Hughie is in the back with the 6 girls, ex-Minnie's 23, and her 5 sisters, all in various states of consciousness and trauma, trying to explain that they're safe now, that nobody's going to hurt them anymore, knowing that his words sound hollow after what they've survived. Kimiko sits nearest the tablet, signing to Frenchie in rapid, urgent gestures. He translates for Butcher. She says we have to go back. That leaving him is the same thing Vord would do. Butcher doesn't look away from the screen. We go back, we die, and the girls die, and Logan's sacrifice means nothing. On the tablet, they watch Homelander drop Logan's body, barely recognizable now, more wound than man, and step back to admire his work. But Logan moves. Impossibly, agonizingly, he pushes himself to his hands and knees. His regeneration is slower now, systems overwhelmed, healing factors struggling to prioritize which catastrophic injury to address first. Homelander watches this with something approaching wonder. How are you still moving? It's not rhetorical. He genuinely wants to know, wants to understand how something so broken refuses to quit. Logan raises his head. One eye is sealed shut from burns. The other is bloodshot but defiant. Because his voice is gravel scraped over broken glass. I've been through worse, and I'm still here. And 50 years from now, when you're retired, or dead, or replaced by the next corporate mascot, he spits blood. I'll still be here, still healing, still remembering. Can't erase someone who won't die. The truth of it hits Homelander like a physical blow. He can destroy Logan's body, but not his existence. Can silence him temporarily, but not permanently. Logan is proof that Vord's power has limits, that there are things in this universe that can't be bored, branded, or buried. And that proof, that living testimony, is more dangerous than any weapon. Homelander's expression shifts. Not rage now. Calculation. The same cold business logic that drives Stan Edgar and every Vought executive who's ever turned suffering into quarterly earnings. You're right. I can't kill you. He kneels down, close enough to whisper, but I can make you irrelevant. Can't save anyone from a cell at the bottom of the ocean. Can't be a hero when nobody knows you exist. He stands, prepares to deliver the final blow, not death, but imprisonment in a place where healing factor means eternal suffering. Goodbye, Logan. Nobody's going to remember. The wall explodes, not from Homelander, from outside, from a rocket-propelled grenade that Butcher fired from 200 yards away using a launcher that swore would be suicide to deploy this close to a superhuman. The explosion doesn't hurt Homelander. Nothing does, but it staggers him, disorients him, gives Logan the 3 seconds he needs to move. Not toward escape. Toward Homelander. Toward the one play he's been saving, the one move that won't win the fight, but will win the story. He drives his claws not into Homelander's body, that's impossible, but into the floor beneath him, puncturing through concrete and steel, and finding the facility's main power conduit. 80,000 volts surge through adamantium claws, through Logan's body, through Homelander, who's standing close enough to complete the circuit. It's not enough voltage to hurt either of them, not permanently, but it's enough to blow every system in the compound, every light, every camera, every recording device that Dr. Vega was using to document Project Regeneration. In the darkness that follows, Logan whispers, "Nobody's gonna remember." Good, neither will you. Then he passes out, not from the electricity, from exhaustion, from damage so extensive that even his healing factor demands rest. When Vord's backup teams arrive 7 minutes later, they find Homelander standing alone in the ruins, surrounded by destroyed equipment and zero evidence of what happened. No recordings, no proof, just his word against a ghost's. And somewhere in that darkness, the boys have already extracted Logan, already disappeared into the network of safe houses and underground routes that people like Butcher have spent lifetimes building. The facility is empty. The girls are gone. The data is destroyed. All that remains is a crater where Vorge's latest experiment used to be, and one very frustrated superhero who can't explain why he let it happen. 3 weeks later, you're sitting in a coffee shop in Queens. You, the junior producer who documented everything from the beginning, scrolling through your phone and watching the internet, dissect what's become known as the Pennsylvania incident. Vorge's official story is terrorist attack, foreign actors, classified response. But the leaked footage tells a different tale. Someone, Frenchie, probably, released 30 seconds of security camera feed showing Logan standing between Homelander and 6 teenage girls, choosing to fight rather than run. The footage is grainy, incomplete, but it's enough. Enough to contradict Vorge's narrative. Enough to make people ask questions. Enough to prove that Logan existed, that he mattered, that he stood against impossible odds and survived. The video has 2 billion views. The comments are endless debates. Was he a hero? A weapon? A threat? Did he survive? Where is he now? You don't have answers. Nobody does. But you know one thing for certain, somewhere out there, Logan is healing. And when he's ready, when his bones have fused, and his skin has closed, and his memories have settled, he'll do it again. Because that's what he is. Not a hero. Not a weapon. Just a man who refuses to let the monsters win. And in a world run by Vought, by people who monetize suffering and brand cruelty as justice, that refusal is the most dangerous thing of all. You close your phone, sip your coffee, and wonder if you'll see him again. If anyone will. The answer, you suspect, depends on how badly the world needs someone who can't be bought. And judging by the headlines streaming past on every screen in this coffee shop, scandals, cover-ups, more victims coming forward, the world needs him now more than ever. Whether it deserves him is another question entirely.